for the audience members who don't know your story, let's just start with it, because you had some tough breaks during your childhood, and by the time you were 19, they'd caught up with you.
Yeah. As an infant, first and foremost, I was born in abject poverty, lived in and out of crack motels, birth parents both on drugs, and I was ripped away from that lack of a home and placed into foster care. In foster care, my brother and I, who was 10 months older than me, Irish twins, my brother and I both got bronchitis because of neglect in a foster home, and he died right next to me. So I was a survivor, if you could say, from the very beginning. I bounced around from home to home, but unlike my poor brother, Megyn, I got very, very lucky. The Hines family took me in and made me their son. They essentially saved my life, gave me hope, gave me a future. And growing up in the Hines home, I thought everything's going to be copacetic from here, smooth sailing. But at 17 and a half, I had a complete mental breakdown in front of 1,200 people in a theater show I was in. And I had to be sent straight to see a psychiatrist, placed on medications. But Megyn, I was 17. I wasn't accurately following a treatment plan or adequately. I wasn't in belief that I had what they told me I had, called bipolar disorder, the very same brain disease both of my biological parents had been diagnosed before they ever took drugs. And by 19 years of age, my brain had crumbled under the weight of the pain I was experiencing. I call it brain pain instead of mental health. Your brain is an organ just like every other organ in the body, and it too can become diseased, and mine was. And at 19, looking seemingly at what I thought was the greatest pain I'd ever experienced, and what I believed to be the fact that it would never go away, I found myself at the Golden Gate Bridge walkway, peering over the rail, crying my tears to the waters below. And Megyn, as you well know, I jumped. And I fell that day 220 feet, 25 stories, closing in on terminal velocity in 4 seconds. In those 4 seconds, Megyn, the only thing I did was pray to God that I would live. As you said, it was an instantaneous regret for my actions and this 100% recognition that I just made the greatest mistake of my life, and it was likely too late. And people have asked me over time, how too late? Well, 99.9% of the people that had leapt off the Golden Gate Bridge since its inception 90 some years ago, it's been too late. They're all gone. And so I always say, I get to be here. And I firmly and formidably believe that getting to be here is both a privilege and a gift, no matter the pain you might be in. And I'm in a great deal of physical pain today and every day from what I did to myself all those years ago.
You broke multiple bones, your vertebrae were shattered, multiple internal organs were severely damaged. And yet I know you feel like you had a guardian angel, that you actually did have somebody looking out for you that day. Explain.
When I went into the water and I went down, well, first of all, when you hit the water, you hit at 15,000 pounds of pressure. That's like a giant African elephant standing on your chest. Who survives that? I imploded my T12, L1, L2. They splintered. I missed severing my spinal cord by 2 millimeters, 2 millimeters away from certain death and drowning. I went down 40 to 50 feet and I opened my eyes and I was drowning and I didn't want to. I desperately wanted to live fight or flight mode, and I was fighting. I made my way to the surface, but I couldn't stay above water. I kept going down. I go down one more time. I can't make it back up. And I think to myself, this is it. This is where I go. I'm going to die here. No one's going to know I didn't want to. No one is going to know. I knew I made a mistake. And that's when something very large and very slimy and very alive began circling beneath me. And I remember thinking to myself, you've got to be kidding me. I didn't die jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge and a shark is going to devour me. Perfect. And it turned out to be no shark at all. Bystanders who saw me go over the rail would later report to the Coast Guard that a sea lion was keeping me afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind me. And Megyn, you can call that whatever you want, but in my opinion, that is a miracle beyond belief. And God was looking out for me that day and made sure I was not going to die by suicide in a place that is 99.9% fatal for people who did the same thing I did.
That's incredible. It gives me the chills whenever I hear you tell this story, Kevin. Since then, you've worked tirelessly to stop others from making that same decision you made that day. You've been instrumental in getting, just for one example, the nets that we saw go up in 2023 under the Golden Gate, which many in San Francisco didn't want because they thought they might be unsightly, they might mar the bridge, but they've actually saved lives. Now it's a lot harder to die by suicide by jumping off the Golden Gate. It's something you had to work very hard to push for.
We worked for 20 years to raise the nets at the Golden Gate Bridge. The Bridge Rail Foundation, founded by my father, Patrick, Paul Muller, and Dave Hall, my wife and I were co-founding board members. We argued with the Bridge District for 20 years to do this, to stop suicides at the Golden Gate Bridge effectively. And the Golden Gate Bridge District's authorities' original charter stated, this bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, will be safe for all who cross it. They failed their mission, and we were holding them accountable. And since the inception of the net, suicides at the Golden Gate Bridge have reduced by 73% in 1 year. That's incredible. Proving positive that reduction of access to lethal means absolutely saves lives. And we're working toward the goal of making it to zero suicides at the Golden Gate Bridge, and we hope to get there as soon as humanly possible.
The thing about suicide is it overwhelmingly affects young people. I mean, over 65 also commit suicide in very large numbers, but 10 to 34, it's the second biggest cause of death, 10 to 34. It's bullying, it's childhood trauma, and it's all sorts of things. And so a lot of parents, Kevin, do not want to discuss this because they don't even want the idea floated out there, right? Like in the universe. So what's your advice to them? Do they have to discuss it? If it's, let's say, you have a kid who's, you can tell they're dark or they're feeling depressed and they're not talking to you.
Parents, listen carefully. If you do not have the conversation of suicide prevention at the breakfast, lunch, and dinner table with your children, they are going to come across it themselves through media, through social media, through all kinds of avenues, through their friends, through their peers. You must have the conversation, and you must be bold enough to ask 3 very important questions when you have the inclination that your child is considering suicide, is likely depressed, is struggling with anxiety, or all of the above. Are you thinking of killing yourself? Have you made plans to take your life? And do you have the means? But you don't start there. You start with, hey, I'm really worried about you. I love you with all of my heart. I'm going to ask you 3 direct questions. I want you to answer me with honest answers. You will not be in trouble. Nothing you say could be bad or derogatory. I am here for you because I love you. I've got your back, and I'm listening to understand, not to respond. Are you thinking of killing yourself? Have you made plans to take your life? And do you have the means? Get some more honest answer from youth than the question, are you thinking of suicide, because of the taboo on the word suicide, and a more honest answer than the question, are you thinking of self-harm, because by definition, self-harm is not suicide, it's self-harm, which can lead to suicide, but it's not suicide. Asking those 3 direct questions are proven by the crisis text line's 20-year-old AI algorithm to get more honest answers than those questions I posed, suicide and harm. So asking the questions are pertinent, they're crucial, they're imperative, and they save lives.
Wow. And it's not just with your kids either. I know you encourage people, if they know somebody in their professional life and if they know somebody in their social life, if they happen to see somebody who is literally on the verge of taking their own life, like happened to you, to not be afraid to express caring, compassion, or ask the tough question. Like there actually was a woman you encountered on that bridge moments before you went over the side.
She approached me with a smile on her face, Megyn, and I thought she was coming to ask me if I was okay. I prepared myself. I was going to tell her everything and beg her to save me because I couldn't save myself. And she approached, she pulled out a digital camera, and she said, "Will you take my picture?" in that accent. And maybe she was trying to reach me in her own way, but I couldn't see it. When she left, I told myself the greatest lie any of us have ever told. Absolutely no one cares. And it was the furthest thing from the truth. Megyn, when I travel around the world to speak in every continent, with every language, to every community, one of the most common themes I hear is that people who are in the audience, especially youth alike, are being neglected and abused at home, or their peers are telling them to just go kill themselves in school and when they go home on social media. We must stop the inherent bullying, hazing, teasing, and harassment that goes on in our schools. And if we can't stop the bullying, we need to build more resilient children to let them know that suicide is never, ever the solution to their problem. It is the problem. Suicidal ideations are the greatest liars we know. Don't listen to them. And suicide does not, cannot, and will not ever take the pain away. It just transfers it on to everyone left behind and makes it wholly impossible for things to ever get better. But with time, energy, effort, and a great deal of hard work, things will always get better. I promise you. I know this. I'm living proof. That's why I wrote the book, The Art of Wellness, How to Find, Live, and Stay Mentally Fit. It is a workbook that determines how you better balance your brain, mind, behavioral, physical, spiritual, social health, and well-being. It is changing lives around the world, and I wanted to change your audience's lives here every day going forward, because you go back to the book every day you have a problem, and you find a new technique to implement into your daily life to change your brain, to change your life.
When inflation jumps, when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Well, you'd be right. Whether as a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during global instability, or just for sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold. And so they created something special. Until September 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit right now. Just text MK to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate in free metals of up to 10 grand. So make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy before September 30th. Text MK to the number 989898 to claim your eligibility and get your free info kit. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.